What's up, guys? It's John here with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to just cover the. I've been wanting to get back into the NBA anyway, but I really wanted to cover the trade heard around the world, I guess. And typically, I really try and veer away from just talking about hot topics, because most people just want to talk about them because obviously they get views and stuff. If you've been following the channel, you probably know that's not really my priority. I always just try and put out stuff that people that watch the channel would want to see. But I do cover basketball. I haven't in a bit. And quite a few people wanted my opinion on the Doncic trade. It's really not any different than any other opinion that anybody has right now. In my opinion, there's no justification for this trade at all. At all. And I actually did a video last year when Kyrie got traded because it was ridiculous. So let's look at this box score real quick. This man, Spencer Dinwiddie, was the biggest piece of last year when the Nets traded Kyrie Irving. They acquired Spencer Dinwiddie, and then they got like Dorian Finney-Smith and a couple garbage players. And even with that, people were saying how ridiculous it was. But obviously Dinwiddie, he can ball. I mean, I think it's all fake anyway, but even in a fake league, whatever, the guy can ball. Like if he's a point guard or a shooting guard and he's like the one or two guy on a team, just like tonight, even though he's probably like the three, maybe the two. I don't know how much it looks like Clay's doing pretty good. Dinwiddie's a good player. So yeah, Dallas trades him to the Nets, and then the Nets essentially, I think they just released him, or he just got traded again. And then the Mavs basically got him back for free, which essentially means they got Kyrie Irving for free. And I went into last year how if I went on to NBA 2K, I think it was 2K24 at the time, and tried to trade for Kyrie Irving with Dinwiddie and picks and such, it would not allow me to do it. I actually tested it at the time, and yeah, it was like, complete no interest. You know how it's like in the red. So I don't have the game really for this year. But this Doncic trade just makes no sense. I would argue anyone that has the game can try this out. I mean, I'm sure a few people have already. If I tried to trade Anthony Davis for Doncic and Kleber, and I think it was like a third round pick, whatever it was, I know for a fact that would be in the complete no interest. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a cutscene dedicated to the owners just laughing at me backstage or something, because it's such a ridiculous trade. Because when let's look at the ratings, and again, this is 2K, but they do base it off of how they play in real life, and I think the ratings are actually pretty accurate. So in 2K here we got Luka at 96, and we got and I'm using 2K as a reference point because that's what the league has become. Someone actually said to me something to the effect of this trade was like a 2K trade, and my response to that is it's actually a little disrespectful to 2K because even 2K would not allow this trade. So Luka Doncic, who's a very young player, as you can see, being traded for Anthony Davis. So Luka's like what? He's like 25, I think, and AD's 31. So basically the same rating, but you're having a much younger player for an older player. And again, you could try this. I bet you'd have to throw in Kyrie just for them to accept the trade, or Clay maybe, or like a bunch of first-round picks. And even with the picks, I don't think it would work. And again, that's where we're at now. That's where the NBA has put us. The NFL is not much better, where we're using 2K as a reference point because it's actually more realistic. Because in any unscripted league, you're not going to just have this trade. The biggest thing to me is, they talk about this all the time, and they have narratives where, of course, they'll change the narrative based off of what's going to make sense to people. And in this case, nothing makes sense. I'm not sure how I see a few. The only narrative I'm seeing is they don't want to pay Luka $70 million. And to me, that's ridiculous. These players get whatever they want. Jaylen Brown just got a ton of money. He's certainly not like Luka. And any superstar going forward is going to get that kind of money. So to me, that makes no sense. If this was Kyrie being traded, that makes a little more sense. You'd have to throw in a few other players or picks. I get it. But, just logically, I don't understand it, and nobody does. And to me, it just shows how rigged it is and scripted it is. Obviously, this is just to get the Lakers looking like, and they already look good, but like just a lot of. It reminds me of when LeBron went there after he couldn't beat the Warriors. I think he did beat him with the Cavs, but he wound up going to the Lakers, obviously, and teamed up with AD. But there's just no justification for this trade. So, like, the other narrative is Luka's kind of injury prone, but he's nowhere near as injury prone as AD. And then the other thing is, if this was flipped and Luka was like 30, 31, and it's 31, I'm being generous by trying to call AD 30, but 31 and AD was 25, that would make some sense because the longevity would be about the same. Point guards go a lot longer than power forwards / centers. So AD is going to be, like 34 in just a couple years, like 3 years. So Luka's going to be 28, still in the prime of his career with probably like 7 quality years left. And he's already a better player. Like, it's hard to compare the positions, but I would argue most people would agree if you have a horrible team, and I'm not calling these teams horrible, I'm just giving a hypothetical, and you need Luka or you need AD, you're going with Luka because that guy can independently take a team, as he did before, to the Western Conference Championship. He just went to the finals. He's always in like top 3 for the MVP category, and his numbers are just a little better. So he's 6 years younger, in my opinion, has better numbers, even though AD's doing good this year. And it's a complete given he's going to have the longevity. Again, AD's, when big men start hitting 30, they start trending downward typically. So, like, it just makes no sense. There's absolutely no value here for the Mavericks. And, again, there's no narrative that makes sense. Maybe Luka wanted out, I guess, would be the only one. And even that, you can get a better deal. We heard that they tried to get Giannis, and that didn't work. But, yeah, to me, the reason I wanted to cover this specifically is it actually directly involves the 2 teams I have going to the finals, which I did one video on it was a tier list of the NBA teams, and it's actually held up pretty darn good. Like, I had 10, the 10 teams from each conference that I thought were gonna make the playoffs, and on the East side I think we got them all right now. Like, if it ended right now, I think every one of these is my pick. I'll have to I'm sure somebody will watch the video and say, oh no, but I'm actually pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's Pistons, Magic, and it's always Bulls, Hawks. If you noticed, it's like the last 5 years these 2 teams have been the two play-in teams. So yeah, I think we nailed the East, and then on the West, let's look. I definitely had San Antonio getting in. I think instead of Sacramento, so we'll see what happens there. And I believe I had Golden State instead of Minnesota. So I think right now we're at like 8 out of 10 on the West. I did say the Rockets were going to really come out and surprise people. And it was pretty obvious just based off of the narratives. And then, so anyway, my 2 teams are the Lakers and Celtics. I put that out probably about 3 months ago, maybe. It was when the season started. And it's pretty simple. The Celtics just got, 18? And the Lakers can now tie them for 18. Or whether it's 17, whatever it is. And I found that to be interesting. And the biggest reason I like the Celtics to go back, just because of the history. So, the Lakers are really in my opinion, the team here. I have the Lakers, if you don't know, winning the championship this year. And again, you can Luka going there actually makes me a little more hesitant because obviously with Luka there now, a lot more money might be on them. But I'm still going to stick with them. But I think it's going to be Lakers-Boston because then again, the Lakers can tie the record. And not only that, but now there's another factor where you have Luka who will be playing Boston 2 years in a row, which again kind of reminds me of LeBron, playing the Warriors with different teams. So, obviously they didn't play in the finals when he went to the Lakers because they're in the same conference, but he was competing with them. And I just feel like it makes sense. So, yeah, I actually believe in my preseason pick more now than ever. Boston Lakers, and I think the Lakers are going to win. The biggest reason I had the Lakers originally is because of Bron and Bronny. They would be the first father son combo to ever in any sport to win a championship. We had the Griffies, but I don't believe they won a championship together. And then typically you never get a father son on the same team. I even used wrestling as an example because the Mysterios, who are from California, Ray and Dominic, won like the tag team championships in wrestling. And then sure enough, like within a year, Bronny's drafted to the Lakers. So I noticed they copy wrestling all the time. So I really do believe the LeBron's getting his was it his fifth this year. And my biggest reason for, because I have a few as I've gone over, my biggest reason that I think LeBron needs to win, and I think he's definitely going to get another championship, whether it's this year or maybe he has one more year in him, is because I just don't think they're going to keep the argument with LeBron versus Curry alive. I think they want to establish LeBron is not quite Jordan because they're never going to let anybody be Jordan because of Nike, even though Kareem's a better player. So we just have to accept that, they got Jordan number one and everyone else is fighting for number two, right? So Kobe's come back into the picture. You'll hear Tim Duncan sometimes. I don't think he's number two, but you'll hear him. From the more sensible people, you'll hear Kareem one or two. And then there's a lot of other players, but LeBron, Bird used to be on the list, and then it's funny because he's been retired forever. But for some reason, and it's not even like comparing him to newer players, like things have changed. But even comparing him to older players, they used to have him if I don't feel like I'm that old, I'm a '90s guy, but I remember the Jordan versus Bird debates, and this was after they retired. People arguing if Bird was as good as Jordan, and now it's not even a debate. And to be honest, with the rings, it shouldn't be. Jordan, I think, as much as I think Bird's underrated, I don't see the argument for him. He did beat Jordan every time they played, and he was older. Like he was like 38 beating Jordan, and Jordan's in the prime of his career before he got Scotty. But my point being, not to go on a tangent, the Jordan versus Bird debate just disappeared because they needed new narratives. So then it's Jordan, Kobe, and now we obviously have the biggest one is Jordan and LeBron. And I just don't think they're going to let LeBron fall that much where we're comparing him to Bird. And again, it's no disrespect to Bird. It's just how they treat certain players. And I think they respect Bird, but he's a guy that I feel like he played a while ago. And if you notice, the players that played a while ago just don't get treated quite the same, which again makes sense. They want ratings, they want draws. So anyway, my point being, LeBron, just like Mahomes, I went into this with Mahomes, has to get this three-peat in order to establish himself as a possible, the GOAT versus Brady. Otherwise, he's in the Montana category and the Peyton category. And even though I actually think Peyton was a better quarterback, Brady obviously was more successful. And again, we're talking scripted leagues, but just like wrestling, I'm going to suspend my disbelief. So LeBron, I think, has to get another ring because then you have the argument versus him, Jordan. They'll still say Jordan's better. There's analysts who have literally come out and said Jordan could win 3 more rings, and LeBron could win 3 more rings, and they still wouldn't consider him, compared to Jordan. They use his longevity as a negative somehow. And again, I'm not a LeBron guy. I just try and call it how I see it. When a guy's 40 and playing way better than Jordan did at 35, I feel like that warrants some, credibility for LeBron. But that's just not going to happen. So no matter what LeBron does, he's never going to be considered with Jordan. But Mahomes can win 1 more ring, be 3 shy of Brady, way shy of the stats, and he's the GOAT. So it's funny how they just spin these narratives. But my point being, I really like the Lakers because it gives Luka his first ring. And again, I said this multiple times. They have a lot of guys. They got SGA, they got Ant, obviously Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, all these guys. But to me, Luka makes the most sense to be the next LeBron type. I don't a lot of guys look at Luka and they compare him to Bird because they're both white. They play nothing alike. I think Popovich had the best analogy when he compared Luka to Magic, a very tall point guard. Plays not well. Magic played better Greek defense, but he's got a high IQ and he makes some very nice plays, and the whole team revolves around him. So, with Luka, I just feel like versus some of these other players, he's a little more marketable. With big men, you notice it's not often that they're the centerpiece of a team. Even if they're the best players, sometimes they're just not marketed the same. Again, Kareem's a great example. Wilt could be another example. But I really believe that this just makes the most sense. Luka and LeBron get a championship together. There is a Kobe connection too, because when Dallas played the Lakers, that was the last game Kobe was, I believe, at the last Lakers game. And he made a big point of going up to Luka and asking him about his family and all these different things. He even brought up Mambasita. He was kind of like, I like your shoes, but I'd like to see you wearing something else. Something like that. Basically hinting at Mambasita. But I just feel like this was done so, again, the Lakers and Celtics can have a banger of a finals. Because now you'll have Luka, LeBron, and probably Bronny. I'm sure they'll find, even if they can give him 1 minute, I think he's still in the G League, but I feel like they will just so they can have him and LeBron on the same court for the finals. And then they can say they won it as father and son. And as scripted as that sounds, just look at the NFL, and it's really not that hard to believe. But yeah, there's really not much I can say except, again, like if I went to 2K and tried to trade this exact trade, I'm pretty sure it would be met with no interest. Unless I threw in, again, like Kyrie or Clay. And even then, like, again, they take into account, and I'm not talking about just 2K, but owners, you would think, longevity. How many years, quality years, does a player have left? And again, Luka, you can argue like 10, and AD, you'll be lucky if we get 3. So again, the trade makes no sense at all, in my opinion. There's just no justification for it, except it's going to make Lakers versus Boston more of a draw. With the NFL destroying the NBA lately, I don't think the NBA is against trying to make things more interesting. So I get people's, and nobody's said this to me yet, but I'm sure people will, like, okay, well, that's so obvious now. Like, everyone's going to have the Lakers with Luka and LeBron, and that might be the case. I think what's going to happen is Dallas is going to finish the season really strong, look like they won the trade. And then in the postseason, we're going to see the Lakers with Luka and LeBron. I actually believe the first couple games, we might see some stagnation. Just like we saw with Luka and Kyrie. They didn't even make the playoffs when they were in their first year. And it was because they were talking about how both of them have the same role. And with LeBron and Luka, it's even more apparent because they're both... LeBron's older, so he passes a little more now, but they're both guys that have they bring up the point most of the time. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think Luka, with another team now going up against the same team he lost to, getting his first ring, LeBron definitely establishing himself over Curry, just makes the most sense to me. So yeah, Lakers, Boston, with the Lakers winning is still my pick. And that's really why I wanted to do this video, because, again, it directly involves 3 teams, Lakers, Mavs, and Celtics, in a way, that my finals pick has been Lakers, Celtics. So I really wanted to cover that for this reason. And I know a lot of people wanted my opinion. It's really not that complicated or deep. It's a scripted league, and they're going to... I almost feel like they... Whether it's like the commissioner or just like a owners meeting, and they just decide, okay, we're going to move all these guys around. I really don't think like the Mavericks and Lakers just did this trade. I think there was a lot more involved. And if you look at like any article, like YouTube article or video on it, a lot of people are saying, yeah, the script writers really had their hands on this one, so their fingerprints all over this one. So it's not like a lot of people are noticing it because it's so egregious. And again, this is coming off of the Mavericks just fleecing the Nets, and then the Suns turned around and fleeced the Nets, and then the Mavericks make the second worst trade to the Lakers of all time, with Vlade Divac probably being number 1. So yeah, To me, I think it's setting up the finals. We'll have Luka and LeBron against two guys that, through their whole careers, have had the narrative that it's always been just them. So it makes sense that they would team up, right? And they can now get Luka can get his rematch against the Celtics, and I believe the Lakers will win. So something else could happen, Knicks Pacers, wouldn't shock me, but I just don't see it. I really don't see Cleveland. They're a boring team. Just like I said about the Vikings, and people made fun of me all year, and rightfully so because I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. But then when I said they'd be knocked out in the first round, people just said I hated the Vikings. It's not that. I could just see a boring team when I see one, and the Cavaliers are the Vikings of the NBA. So that leaves us with a handful of teams: Milwaukee, Boston. I don't think it's going to be Milwaukee, and I think they're just the perennial red herring. I could see maybe Brunson getting some love. You get Lakers, Knicks, and yeah, you got Brunson versus Luka. So there's stuff that could happen. But I really think it's going to be Boston, Lakers here. And for me, even though yes, now that they're a better team, more people might put money on them. They waited till the deadline, so a lot of money's already been put on other teams. Probably like the Mavericks. I'm sure a lot of people had money on the Mavericks or the Thunder or whoever else. Memphis, another one. I had them making a comeback. It didn't make sense for Ja to come back and them to do nothing. So, again, most of our picks aging really well. I'll check the video or someone else can and let me know. But I'm pretty sure we're 10 for 10 in the East right now. Like, if the playoffs started today, I'm pretty sure these are the 10 teams I had. And for the West, I'm pretty sure it's 8 out of 10. With if the Golden State Warriors flip the Kings, and they're tied technically, so it's not even like they have to flip them. And then the Spurs. I think the Spurs will get in as a wild card. That was actually, yeah, that was not wild card, but as a play-in. That was my prediction. I know the Spurs were one of my play-in teams. So yeah, I don't think much has changed. I think the Mavericks, again, I think they're going to look really strong. They're looking strong tonight, and they're ironically beating the Celtics, right? So it's maybe some symbolism there. And maybe the Lakers look a little, again, stagnant, uncoordinated because they have to get their bearings together with Luka and LeBron. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, I just wanted to cover the trade, and then also, again, since it involves my finals team, just kind of go into why, again, and now more reasons, I really like Boston Lakers. Lakers win, and then they're both tied at 18. And it kind of ties in with wrestling. It's funny because you got John Cena and Ric Flair tied at 16 championships, and John Cena is going for 17, which is where the Lakers are now. John Cena's from Boston. There's like a lot of weird connections, and I do think the NBA copies wrestling. So yeah, that's basically it. The Mavericks got Dinwiddie back for free. The Nets, of all the teams over the last couple of years, got fleeced the worst. I just saw they're trying to get a buyout on Ben Simmons. I think 50 cents should be enough. And yeah, the West, I just really feel like the Lakers are the only team that makes a lot of sense. It's not going to be Denver, and I'll tell you why. There's no way they're going to let Jokic continue. He probably won't get his fourth MVP, even though if you look at the numbers, he deserves it. I don't think they want to have him established as like the greatest center of all time. And I don't think he'd be the greatest, but he'd certainly pass like Shaq, probably Olajuwon, and just centers that I think they want people to, at least for now, have as top guys. And if Jokic gets this, he's going to pass Shaq and all those guys. So, David Robinson, he might already be ahead of him on a lot of the analyst list. But it's all about how they establish the players. So that's why I don't have Jokic winning MVP or getting back. So you kind of rule out teams. Rockets, maybe, but not. I see them making a run, but then losing. I don't see them going to the championship. Clippers just seem like they're right in the middle of the road, number 6, and I feel like they stay that way. Ant had his run last year. He got to beat Jokic, and that's probably as far as he'll get unless he gets a trade or something. And yeah, Dallas, I just don't see it happening with Kyrie and AD. So yeah, I really believe now we might get Dallas Golden State. That would be interesting because then you get like Kyrie and Clay versus Steph, and that'll be a fun matchup. But and of course Kyrie played Steph in the finals, and the Clay connection. So I actually think if I don't already have it, I have to, again. I don't know exactly what I had in my last video, but Dallas meeting Golden State makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe in like the first or second round. But yeah, Lakers Celtics is still my pick. I think Lakers are gonna win it, and Doncic will get his first ring. And it's almost like a passing of the guard, in my opinion, where LeBron can go out on a high note with his son, and Luka can be the new centerpiece for for the Lakers. So yeah, you can let me know what you think. I just kind of wanted to get this out because a lot of people asked me, and again, typically I won't just like cover a hot story just for the fact, oh, okay, everyone's gonna watch this. But in this case, since again it involves my finals teams, and a few people asked me, and we're kind of getting back to the NBA, which I covered a lot more last year. This year I've had a little less time. But the good part is we'll have the whole second half of the season basically, and the postseason now at the Super Bowl, just a couple days away, to cover the NBA a lot more. But yeah, I mean, not to be cocky, a lot of it aged so well, like there's no reason for me to make a bunch of videos like, yeah, so I have the same teams and they're still doing well. It's just something that if you watch my playoff tier video, my NBA tier video, then you'll kind of see. I think we have our finger over the pulse here. But I'm going to get back to covering the daily games and all that too. I don't want to, not be able to cover those. And we will cover the daily games again very soon. Probably in the next week. I'll at least 2-3 nights a week have videos out for the NBA games. But yeah, let me know what you think. I think Luka LeBron win the championship. I think that's why this scripted trade that NBA 2K would definitely decline was allowed to begin with. So yeah, I think it's all lining up for Lakers Celtics. So yeah, take care and happy earnings.